In Venezuela, citizens participate in the Great National Consultation called Communes Can Do More, with the objective of defining popular projects for the communities. In Ecuador, citizens go to the polls to express their support or rejection to the 11 questions of the popular consultation promoted by President Daniel Noboa. And in Palestine, a general strike paralyzes the West Bank to denounce the Israeli bombings in the Nur Shams Refugee Camp. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, people participate in the Great National Consultation called Communes Can Do More, with the objective of defining by vote the election of priority popular projects for the communities. 15,617 voting centers have been set up in the 23 states of the South American nation for this day of voting. In this consultation called by President Nicolás Maduro, all Venezuelans, men and women over 15 years of age may participate, who must choose among nearly 23,000 social projects proposed by the more than 4,500 communes located in the national territory. These projects are aimed at sectors such as health, education, food security, environment, public services and economy. And the winning ones will be financed by the government and executed by the organized communities themselves. Venezuela holds a day of consultation on community projects to improve the welfare of the people and address their needs. From Caracas, our correspondent Gladys Quesada for more details on today's election exercise.
Yes, thanks for the time and also for this contact. I'm almost whispering because right now we are in a kitchen. Yes, in a kitchen in Antímano, one of the many points of Caracas where this commune voting is taking place, and also the decision by the peoples regarding their projects and their social projects also today, April 21st. So with me, I have one of the international observers that is accompanying this process, and now I'm going to ask you, first of all, your full name and where do you came from and which is your organization?
My name is Leonid Savin. I am from Moscow, Russian Federation. I am director of the Foundation of Fidel Castro and also chief editor of U Media. And this is my short visit to Venezuela. For this time, I am like observer and to see this process of consultation with people and what to do and social and economic issues. And it's very interesting to see by our own eyes how it organized, how process is going on, and how local governance and to deal with local people on grassroots level, and how it's then going on national level. It's all details. It's very interesting.
This must be an interesting experience for you because Russia, you know, back in the time was the crib, you know, the origin of the popular will and this kind of ideas. So what is for you to see this crystallizing today, came into reality today with this process?
Yes, I think this experience may be useful in Russia too in the future because now political system changed. We are going to in our own way and to get back more sovereignty than before, because no Western influence anymore, no influence of liberal democracy of United States like before. Because also Russia and Venezuela are a very friendly country, we are jointly work for world of multipolarity, like our president told, President Nicolás Maduro, President Vladimir Putin. So I think we can to share experience of Russia and Venezuela to each other.
Actually, this is one of the commune centers that gives care and attention for many people, hundreds of people. And you have witnessed their organization and their structure. So what do you take back home from this place, from all the places you have witnessed today?
First of all, I will do some reports, some analytical reports that will be published in famous Russian media. And then, of course, it will be kind of more deep analysis of processes, what's going on from the times of Hugo Chavez, because Hugo Chavez to start to reorganize political, social processes in Venezuela many years ago, and now Nicolas Maduro more to continue this process in Venezuela. So I think it will be a very good experience, personal experience, and of course for future processes too.
So thank you for these opinions, and thank you for having a part in this process today here in Venezuela, and also for your time for teleSUR English and our audience.
You're welcome. Also, thank you for opportunity to speak with people and with you.
Thank you. So yeah, we will continue reporting from all the points in Caracas where the communes are, which is to say all Venezuela, and we will give you all the stories regarding this process of popular consultation today, April 21st. So back to you.
In Ecuador, the popular consultation and referendum called by President Daniel Noboa's government began amidst a state of emergency due to the insecurity crisis that the country is experiencing. This Sunday, Ecuadorians go to the polls to answer the 11 questions proposed by the national government related to the fight against criminal gangs and to encourage investments to the country. During the inauguration ceremony, President Daniel Noboa called the Ecuadorian people to exercise their right to vote to fight violence. Ecuador's National Electoral Council set up 4,322 voting centers for this election day.
In the midst of its worst energy crisis, a marked economic recession and the highest homicide rate in Latin America, Ecuador goes to the polls this Sunday, April 21st. President Daniel Noboa promotes a referendum that, according to his promises, will allow the construction of a new country.
Today, criminal organizations and corruption are trying to put obstacles in our way. But we are going to get out of this with strength and with our best weapon, which is our vote. We are going to promote the referendum this Sunday.
There are 11 questions, most of them related to security, such as the role of the armed forces in the fight against organized crime and the increase of penalties for serious crimes.
Traditionally, consultations have been used to validate presidential positions, but many of them are anchor questions. What are the anchor questions? Something that no one could say no to, and then, taking hold of that anchor question, making a campaign to vote in favor of the other presidential intentions or pretensions. Although it worked for Lenin Moreno with the 7 times yes, at the time, for Guillermo Lasso, when he proposed his popular consultation, he did it in a way that generated complete rejection from the population.
Some consider that the electoral process has been used by the president to legitimize the role of the U.S. Southern Command in the alleged fight against organized crime, the presence of the military on the streets, and to justify the abuses of the armed forces, as denounced by human rights organizations.
We are not talking about assistance, we are talking about forms of government, about control of prisons or the streets. We have painfully seen summary executions in the country. We have seen a young man who goes out to sell a puppy and is executed without any process.
Moreover, unions denounce that behind the security questions, there are other core questions that jeopardize workers' rights.
Vacation, subsidies, and overtime rights are eliminated. Workers under this type of contract will have to be available 100% of the time, hoping that there will be a contract for 2, 3, 4 hours of work.
Another question that does not convince progressive groups is that of international arbitration for investments.
Article 422 that they want to amend in this referendum prohibits the Ecuadorian state from submitting to international arbitration and yielding sovereignty. In the annex to question D, the article is completely changed, and the state is completely exposed to international arbitrations. Gentlemen, out of every 10 arbitrations, the state loses 7, the other 3 never wins. It only reaches judicial or extrajudicial agreements before the respective award. In all of them it has to pay.
13.6 million Ecuadorians are called to the polls to express their support or rejection to this electoral initiative proposed by a president whose approval, according to several polls, in March reached almost 80%, but who has now faced a strong rejection after decisions such as those of assaulting the Mexican embassy in Quito and the blackouts of more than 8 hours a day. The truth is that Noboa is risking a great part of his political capital this Sunday. Elena Rodriguez, teleSUR, Ecuador.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, the West Bank dawns paralyzed by a general strike to denounce the massacre perpetrated by Israeli forces in the Nur Shams Refugee Camp, where 14 people were killed. The official Wafa news agency reported the closure of schools, universities, banks, and stores in cities and towns of the West Bank, following the calls of the Palestinian forces and movements. Both the Teachers Union and the Transport Union announced a total strike in support of the inhabitants of the Gaza Strip and the Nur Shams camp. The call for a general strike was made by the Palestinian National Liberation Movement Fatah and was supported by several factions, including the Hamas movement. Thousands of people marched in several European cities to denounce the Israeli regime's genocide in the Gaza Strip and express their support for Palestine. As the 197th day of Israel's war in Gaza, which has left more than 34,000 dead in the Palestinian enclave, passes, demonstrators in Berlin, Dublin, and Geneva demanded an immediate and permanent ceasefire and called on their governments to stop sending arms to the Zionist regime. In Spain, about 3,500 people gathered in the center of Barcelona to show their solidarity with Palestine and demand an end to the Israeli attacks on Gaza, as well as the pro-Palestinian associations Comunitat Palestina de Catalunya and Coalició Pro Complicitat amb Israel called the march, which many joined wearing Palestinian scarves around their necks, calling on the Spanish government of Pedro Sánchez to break off relations with Israel. In Morocco, hundreds of activists protested in front of the U.S. Consulate General in Casablanca to express their solidarity with the Palestinian people. Participants raised the Palestinian flags and banners, denouncing the crimes committed by the Israeli occupation. Protesters urged the international community for pressing the occupation forces to reach a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and opening the border crossing for humanitarian aid. In turn, activists called on the Moroccan kingdom to break off relations with Israel.
We think this genocide is a direct aftermath of the assistance the U.S. government has been providing for years to the Zionist entity. Here, we are witnessing a crystal-clear complicity in what the White House supplies in terms of logistics, funding, vetoes, military, and espionage to the Zionist entity.
Also in Marseille, France, thousands of people went out in the streets to express their support to the Palestinian people in the face of the crimes executed by Israel since October 7th. With Palestinian flags and banners, the French citizens demanded a permanent ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, where more than 34,000 people have died, mostly women and children. France is one of the many countries that have expressed their rejection of the Tel Aviv's terrorist acts against Palestine. Meanwhile, in Germany, citizens took to the streets of Berlin to reject the supply of arms to Israel. The demonstrators called to stop arming Tel Aviv to defend the future of Palestinian children and youth. Despite the peaceful nature of the mobilization, the media denounced that the German security forces carried out actions to repress and arrest the demonstrators. In the United States, pro-Palestinian activists rallied outside the Capitol in Washington, D.C. to demand the lawmakers not send additional funds to Israel. Waving Palestinian flags, they demanded that the government stops its complicity with the genocide perpetrated in the Gaza Strip. In this context, it is worth noting that more than 40 Democrat representatives voted against the delivery of $26 billion to Israel. They stated that their votes were against the supply of offensive weapons that could result in more killings of civilians in Rafah and elsewhere.
Very, very hard. Again, been coming here every day for 3 months now, trying to lobby against it, fight against it, and we managed to delay it for a long time, but today they're going to be voting on it to send more weapons to Israel, which is currently committing a genocide in Gaza.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Russia's air defense systems intercepted 50 Ukrainian drones flying over several regions, including Moscow. The Russian Defense Ministry reported having neutralized a series of attempts by Kyiv to carry out terrorist attacks using unmanned aerial vehicles to attack facilities on Russian Federation territory. The military agency detailed that most of the grounded drones by the air defense were reported in the provinces of Belgorod, Bryansk, Kursk, and Moscow. The Russian regions bordering Ukraine regularly report the impact of projectiles, drone raids, and other attacks by Ukrainian forces attempting to attack civilians. The Russian Foreign Ministry warned that U.S. approval of the multi-billion-dollar aid to Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan will only increase tensions in the conflicts. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova pointed out that military aid to Kyiv amounts to direct sponsorship of terrorism, and funding for Taiwan means interference in China's internal affairs. Zakharova added that U.S. military aid to Israel lays the groundwork for escalating aggression in the Middle East. Authorities in some southern Chinese provinces have taken emergency measures in response to the heavy rains that have hit the region since Friday. Heavy rainfall on Friday and Saturday stranded many residents at home and disrupted trains and traffic in Guangdong and Jiangxi provinces. On Saturday morning, some trains on the Beijing-Guangzhou route through the cities of Shaoguan and Jingde were cancelled or diverted. In Shaoguan City, the storm caused floods and disruptions on several national and provincial roads. In Japan, according to reports from the Defense Ministry, an accident involving 2 Army helicopters left 1 dead and 7 missing. The 2 helicopters were on maneuvers over the Pacific when they lost contact with the command center between 10 p.m. local time and 11 p.m. on Saturday local time. The Japanese self-defense forces launched a search for the aircraft shortly after they were reported missing, only to find the wreckage and the body of one of the crew members east of the Izu Islands south of Tokyo. Japan's defense ministry ruled out the involvement of any foreign military entity in the incident, while declaring that a rescue operation is underway to locate the 7 remaining missing. In a thrilling match play at the Alexis Arguello Sports Center in Managua, Nicaragua, the Panama national futsal team made history by winning the CONCACAF Futsal Championship for the first time in its history. In a match full of intensity and emotion, Panama prevailed over Cuba with a final score of 3-4. From the opening whistle, both teams showed solid and determined play, seeking to take advantage of every opportunity to make a difference on the scoreboard. The goals were scored by Roman Milord, Achilles Campos and Claudio Goodrich on 2 occasions. Despite Cuba's efforts to come from behind, Panama's solid defense and tactical play proved difficult to overcome. With this historic victory, Panama became the new champion of the CONCACAF Futsal Championship. Both Cuba and the champions secured their place at the Uzbekistan 2024 Futsal World Cup after qualifying for the semi-finals. In northern France, tourists and locals have gathered on the beach at Berck for the 37th edition of the International Kite Festival. China will be the guest country of honor of this edition from April 20th to 28th, being this the first time the festival has introduced the concept of guest countries since its creation in 1987. Welcoming around 700,000 kite enthusiasts and spectators from all over the world, this year's festival showcases some of the world's most incredible kites. With more than 40 countries taking part in this kite flying extravaganza, the festival is a truly international gathering representing all 5 continents. During the event, the China Cultural Center in Paris will join hands with Weifang City in Shandong province to showcase the most authentic Chinese kite art and cultural experience to the audience. Various cultural activities will take center stage, including kite competitions, cultural performance, and workshops of intangible cultural heritage.
Three problems in general: when there's no wind, when there's too much wind, and when the wind is good, there's never enough room in the sky. That's it. And I go out into the fields because today the wind is strong but it's good, and I go out into the fields to tell them, guys, there's still room, you've got to go, you've got to put out kites, because the more color there is, the better I feel, and then I'm like a big kid.
I feel like it's kind of a dreamland, or like Disneyland, this kind of feeling. And all these like creatures, they are like out of your imagination, and they are all look like very natural but also very imaginative. Yeah, it's really cool. It feels like it's something that appears in my dreams.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.